What's going on, guys?
Welcome back to another video episode, and of course for our podcast listeners, Spotify episode of Historically Athletic. This is going to be our first one post Super Bowl 56. Of course, we did that previous episode, and we wanted to kind of do just a very brief dive into the NFL draft, the combine, kind of give you an idea of what's coming for both the AFC and the NFC.
Now, really, because it just started.
Yeah. So we'll start out with the AFC in our first episode. Hopefully going to be around like 20, 25 minutes. Just depends on how much Big J and I want to ramble and how much you want to put up with. And then we'll do the NFC after that.
Yeah, for sure.
And with the AFC, I mean, once, now with that Brady's retired, and now that Rodgers is getting closer and closer to that point, the AFC's definitely got a quarterback advantage.
Yeah, they definitely do. And, this is where these quarterbacks come. They go through the combine. They go through all the drills that they go through. And, we saw Josh Allen go through it just a couple of years ago. We saw Patrick Mahomes and so forth and so on. So it's going to be interesting to see because the NFC, like you said, it really is. They have a lot of those older style quarterbacks that are, weeding out of their careers and so forth. The AFC, it's kind of got a lot of young bucks in it. So this is where these next legends, these next studs that we always talk about, this is where they come from.
I always get excited during the draft. I don't necessarily get excited about the whole, how big is the quarterback's hand? I mean, truth be told, I just wish some of these talent evaluators would go more off of the tape and go more off of how quarterbacks actually process things rather than just the raw ability.
It's just not, Tom Brady broke the mold, you could say, in that regard because he was not the most physical. He was not the best attribute looking quarterback.
But he could process things.
But he was the smartest.
He was an elite level processor.
And the one thing that John Madden and other people have said in the past, the one thing that you can't measure is their heart. Because football is a sport of emotion.
And will.
And, you're not always going to be the best, you're not always going to be the strongest, but these players, they will themselves to greatness. And that's what's so cool is you get to see some of that. You get to see those. One very just small tidbit of that could remind me, it comes to mind, is like Hunter Renfrow style. You look at him, you saw him in street clothes.
Walk-on receiver at Clemson, wins a national championship basically on the last play to beat Bama when Clemson was still building up to
and
be
he
what
was
they
a
are
very
today.
big role in that game.
Huge. And now he's busted out for the Raiders.
He's one of the best slot receivers in the game. And like I said, if you see him in street clothes, you think
he looks like me. He looks like me.
Exactly. So that's what's kind of cool about it. So we wanted to talk a little bit about, what's going on with the scouting combine this year. Obviously the scouting combine is starting from March 1st to March 7th.
And that's always in Indy.
Always in Indy at Lucas Oil Stadium. It's kind of cool. That's a very pretty stadium.
Yeah, NFL Network, does a ton of coverage on it. Rich Eisen, in the past, Dion has been on there kind of talking about players. I think Marshall Faulk has been on there.
A lot of them, yeah. A lot of analysts are on there.
It's always funny to kind of listen to the banter sometimes because, everybody's like, oh, man, these guys ain't as fast as I was.
It's just a good time. Yeah, it's just a good time. These, these players are out there. They're meeting the young studs that are coming in, giving all the advice that they can, and that's really cool. One of the things that you want to talk about is it is 50 hours of live coverage based on what NFL Network has had here on their combine page.
It's kind of a lot.
It's a lot, and it started March 1st, which was yesterday. We're recording this the evening of March 2nd, so looking forward, March 3rd, they got 7 hours of live coverage talking about quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends.
How many drills are they running, though? I thought you had a rundown of the drills.
They have a good amount of rundown here. So as far as the drills are concerned, obviously the most, one that everyone gets excited for is the 40-yard.
The
40-yard dash. Yep. You got the bench press, which I like to see. Those big boys in the trenches, see how much they can rep 225.
And some of those wideouts and linebackers. Some of those boys are stronger than you realize.
Yeah. And then you got the vertical jump, the broad jump, the 3-cone drill.
Kind of a quickness drill.
Kind of a quickness, the 20-yard shuttle, and the 60-yard shuttle. That's all quickness, change of direction, all that kind of stuff.
Agility, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And, a fun little thing here is they've invited 324 prospects.
Wow.
To the combine this year. So that's a good amount. And that's going to be a lot. Like I said, they have a lot of coverage going over it, everything like that. And speaking of the 40-yard dash, it's everyone's favorite. We all like to, speed kills, and everyone wants to see who's the best. I remember back in 2008 when Chris Johnson ran that 4.24. I mean, that was incredible. And he ended up becoming a very good running back.
Out of East Carolina, if I remember right.
Yeah. But, the fastest actual 40-time clocked, it actually happened not too long ago.
It was a current player.
John Ross out of Washington. He ran a 4.22. That's fast, man. That's fast. And there's a few little accommodations here, or honorable mentions. You got a Texas grad in Marquise Goodwin.
That dude was an Olympian in, I think it was the long jump or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was.
And just an incredible athlete, a great dude. Marquise, if you ever get to watch this, I'm so happy for you and your success, and so happy for you and your wife and your kiddo, and I'm glad that you guys are doing well. You've really made an amazing impact in so many ways. I'm proud to be associated with him. Marquise is good people.
Yeah. So, and even someone that was in for controversial reasons in the news over the last year, Henry Ruggs, he ran a 4.26 in 2020.
Right.
So, I mean, that was just 2 years ago. So, we see every year it looks like, more recently than not, we've had a lot of fast players over these last few years. But for the most part, it's just a spectacle. It's a big spectacle. All the franchises are there, the head coaches, the GMs, everyone's there to show out because this is the future of the game. And it's fun to watch. It's understandably, it's a lot of hours. Obviously, 50 hours of live coverage. A lot to go over.
The one thing I will say, though, that I get kind of tired of, at least from the ESPN side, since I've got my ESPN Plus subscription and whatnot, McShay and Kuiper, I don't quite understand how they got in their position all these years ago. I don't know their backgrounds. But, man...
Kuiper's been doing it for a very, very long time.
But it seems like he has more misses than hits.
Well, that's kind of what it is. I mean, that's what...
It's a guessing game. He's an analyst.
Exactly. That's what
he's making an educated guess just like any other layperson.
Right. I mean...
He just gets a platform.
What was the Raiders GM who just got fired?
Mike Mayock.
I loved watching him. He really did have an eye for talent. He really did explain things very well.
And in detail. And
that's understandably why he got a GM. Didn't really pan out as a GM. They took some risks there. It was kind of, mind-boggling the type of picks that they would make. But again, you go with what you want in your team. It's not necessarily what anybody else wants.
I always get fascinated by it because you always get in the middle of that argument about, do you take the best player or do you take the
most
biggest
important need? Yes.
And I guess it really just varies from situation to situation because, I mean, Lord knows I don't think the Cowboys expected CeeDee Lamb on the board a couple of years back when he slipped.
Yeah.
And truth be told, I told my wife that I thought between Justin Jefferson and CD, I thought Jefferson was the safer pick, and they've been pretty close, but I truly think Jefferson's been the better player in the league.
Yeah. CD's a good player. He's still young. He's got some learning.
No shade against CD. He's a phenomenal player in his own right.
Not at all.
It's just, well, granted, I mean, you also have to share the ball between three guys in Dallas at least the past couple of years, rather than
we got
two Thielen and Jefferson.
But I mean, that's the thing is that's what's cool about it all is it's we're getting to see the future of the NFL with these drafts.
It's always fun.
It's always fun.
And the SEC has just been dominating in draft picks.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, it's been the most competitive conference. It's produced the most national champions. I mean, it's not just a fluke anymore. It's been a trend for over a decade and a half.
For a long time. Yeah,
so,
it's been a trend for a long time.
I think we were going to shift over and kind of shift gears to the AFC and kind of roll from there.
Yeah, let's talk about some of these AFC teams. We got, little tidbits, salary cap information because that's big.
Basics in terms of their free agents, where they need to plug holes. We won't go over these in too much into the weeds stuff.
But just again to give you guys ideas of what these teams are
looking at.
Exactly.
So we'll start with the AFC East champion Buffalo Bills. They finished the season at 11-6. Obviously had that epic playoff game in Kansas City. That was the best game of the playoffs. No question about it. Amazing. I still can't believe it ended how it ended. But
that should have been the AFC championship.
Their coach, of course, Sean McDermott. He's been there going into his sixth season. You got Brandon Beane entering his sixth season as a GM, and they've done a great job in building this roster. It's one of the most talented in the league. But they only have about $1 million in cap space right now.
I mean,
they can pull off some cap gymnastics when it comes to moving some dead money around, reworking deals, converting something into a signing bonus.
Yep.
There's all sorts of ways that you can do that. We're not going to go into this detail for every team. It's just giving you an idea of why teams do things the way they do on the accounting side to basically make room for the deals they need to make and to be able to sign the rookie contracts.
Right.
But
the Bills, pick up those fifth-year options and so forth.
But the Bills have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They've got 9 picks overall in the draft.
In the first round, they got the 25th pick.
Yeah, so I mean, but they're needing a corner, a wideout, a backup quarterback. So there's a couple of different holes. And some of their free agents that they're trying to figure out are like a Jerry Hughes, a Levi Wallace at corner, Emmanuel Sanders at wideout. I mean, there's some players, and Isaiah McKenzie, who busted out towards the end of the year. Like, I think he's going to get paid by somebody, and I don't think it's going to be Buffalo.
No, yeah. I mean,
He's probably going to go to pastures new, but who knows? I mean, the guy really played well towards the end of the year. But the Bills are really looking to fill gaps on their team that they're still trying to fill up the roster.
Right, and they got a young team for the most part, especially on that offensive side. With Josh Allen there.
I still think as long as they lock up Stephon Diggs to a big deal and get complementary weapons around him, because they already got Gabe Davis, they've got Cole Beasley, they've got Dawson Knox. So I mean, the Bills really are set up really well, I think, for the present and the future.
They need to keep that secondary on the defense side because they're getting a little older. Jordan Poyer and then Tre'Davious White with the injury.
White isn't necessarily getting older. It's
but
just
he had the injury.
He did, but it looks like that somebody that it looks like this report came from NFL Nation's Jordan Reed with ESPN.com, and they kind of mentioned that Kyler Gordon, a corner out of Washington, could be somebody that they target to kind of be opposite of White. Seems like he's got those kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, attributes in terms of like a rangy cornerback that they're kind of looking for. But then the next one would be the Miami Dolphins. Of course, they've got Brian Flores out. They got Mike McDaniel in. They've got $61 million in cap space.
That's a lot of money to play with. They can
for better or worse.
They can bring in some good free agents that are out there.
Well, and they need to shore up their offensive line. And they need to get. And here's the kicker, though. They've got Emmanuel Ogbah, one of their defensive ends, and Mike Gesicki, their tight end, both free agents.
Gesicki's pretty good tight end too.
I would try to make sure you keep Gesicki at a reasonable number, and you've got to bring Ogbah back to make sure that defense still maintains its pass rushing edge.
Right. There's a good amount of edge rushers and defensive tackles out there on the free agency, though. So, it just depends on how they're going to work those deals.
Man, this beer's good.
Yes.
Sorry, y'all. We're enjoying a coffee stout. Tastes like a chocolate turtle. If you've ever had one of those, liquefy it and put a little coffee in it.
Some alcohol.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh, yeah.
So the Dolphins obviously committed to Tua as their quarterback. They're out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes based on the most recent reports that we've heard. So they kind of need to figure out what's going to happen with Xavier Howard because obviously he got kind of irritated this past season, doesn't feel like he's valued.
Right. There's a lot of behind the scenes going on in Miami, unfortunately.
And Miami has been trying to plug the hole at running back for a while, like with Myles Gaskin and Jordan Howard and a bunch of other guys over time. I really think Kenneth Walker can make sense for them out of Michigan State. He did really well with Mel Tucker in that offense last year in the Big Ten, and we'll see. I could see that happening maybe late second round, early third round. Because I feel like running backs going in the first round just seems like a poison pill in some respects. No disrespect to draft eligible running backs. I know that, but the thing is, the wear and tear on your body at that position. I mean, there are a lot of running back committees now for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what's starting to happen in Dallas with Zeke and Pollard. It makes sense.
No, you have to. I mean,
if you want to preserve Zeke's
explosiveness. The way the NFL is
explosiveness,
built now is you got to have a good two back. Yeah.
You got to have two. So then the next one is, of course, the New England Patriots. They finished 10-7. They got the
Bill Belichick entering his 23rd season. That's crazy.
We're getting old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We're getting old. So J.C. Jackson, big-time corner. He's a free agent. Devin McCourty's a free agent. Trent Brown, offensive tackle, is a free agent. James White, their Super Bowl hero from the 28-3 comeback against Atlanta in the Super Bowl a couple years back. He's a free agent. Jacoby Myers, the wideout, is a free agent.
Didn't do too much, but he's a good athlete. He's got some decent to him.
I would
Maybe I
not
haven't
re-sign
played
him.
Madden too much, but
I wouldn't re-sign him. It's just a personal. I'm not
100%.
personally against him. It's just I wonder if they could find something a little bit more efficient in
the draft, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. But they really need to keep building around Mac Jones and keep building up that defense. And apparently the one that they're kind of looking at for the Pats is Damone Clark from LSU. He really came on strong at linebacker towards the end of last season. LSU's defense really tightened up towards the end of the season.
LSU's got some great defensive players that they send to the NFL, especially linebacker.
They do, but it's Devin White.
45.
So I really could see him being a good fit in New England. I truly could.
And New England's got $9.4 million, so they don't have a lot, but they still have a little bit of wiggle room where they can, like I said, move some funds around. And
truth be told, I'm trying not to look at the salary cap space too much, only because there is so much teams can do to manipulate the cap in the context.
There's a lot of these teams that are way over the salary cap.
Oh, you mean like the Saints?
Don't have any money to work with. It's like, how are they going to do anything in free agency?
They have to turn over the roster.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very just lots of transactions going on throughout the free agency as far as these teams are concerned.
It'll be fascinating to watch. I mean, speaking of a fascinating team, you got the Jets that finished 4-13.
Very fascinating.
Robert Saleh just comes into his second season. They got almost $50 million in cap space. So they got 2 first-rounders at the 4th and the 10th pick.
4th and the 10th pick.
That's some and 2 picks in the second round at 35 and 38. 1 in the third round, 2 in the fourth, 2 in the fifth. I mean, that's some ammunition to get some impact collegiate players in there and impact prospects in there.
Yeah, that's the 3rd and the 6th.
But they've got so many
round.
needs. It's hard not to think about it. I mean, they got Marcus May at safety. They've got Braxton Berrios they need to bring back. Jamison Crowder's a great slot receiver.
He's a little on the older side of his
career.
He is,
but he's steady.
It'll be interesting to see if they do bring him back.
Yeah. But apparently, these guys are saying that Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati would be a good pick. I know you had sent something to a group of friends
he's a pretty good.
That he's had a really nice career at Cincy in college, but the Jets defense was bad.
Yeah, apparently it was something like that. He didn't allow a touchdown like his whole career in Cincinnati or something like that. I'd have to really go back and look at it, but that's incredible if that's the case.
Well, we'll just have to see how it shakes out. I mean, the Jets have a lot of holes in a lot of areas, but I think the league is more fun when the New York teams are good, just because big market team. You have a lot of support there. Especially when the teams are doing well.
Right.
And truth be told, I'd rather the Jets be good than the Giants because, well, NFCs.
It's been a long time since the Jets been good. I remember when Mark Sanchez was there. They went to the
Sanchez.
Oh man, they were good for a minute. They were good for a hot minute. And
I still remember that they were good when they had Rex Ryan and Sanchez. Mm-hmm. They just couldn't. I remember they had Santonio Holmes for a little while there. And they had a good team. They were solid.
They went to the AFC
Remember
Championship.
the Bart Scott thing? The can't wait.
Oh yeah, Bart Scott. Bart Scott was good too.
He was. Wasn't he with the Ravens before he went to the Jets?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So then, speaking of the Ravens, that's the next team we got. Are you enjoying your beer?
That's a good beer.
Yes, it is. When do I bring bad beer?
Never. Craft beer all the time.
Exactly. So the next team we've got is the Baltimore Ravens. You got Harbaugh going into his 15th year in Baltimore, which is
That's
crazy.
a long time.
I didn't realize he'd been there that long. So then you got about a little under $10 million in cap space, so they don't have as much wiggle room. But they really need to address the O-line, and they really need to make sure that they keep getting weapons for Lamar. And truth be told,
I mean, you definitely got to get O-line when you have Lamar Jackson out there who can run it and pass it. You're going to need.
They gave up a franchise worst 57 sacks last year. That tells you where they need to go.
Yep.
And apparently, this Trevor Penning dude out of Northern Iowa, an offensive tackle, is somebody that these ESPN guys think would be a good fit. It's very possible. I just really think that the Ravens need to fortify that offensive line in a big way because you do not want your franchise quarterback to keep getting beaten up like that.
Look what happened this last year. He was out for, 6-8 games almost. And they
My fantasy team missed him.
I bet they did.
So then the next one we've got is the defending AFC champion.
Talk
this is
about
weird.
Need of offensive line.
Oh my gosh!
You go from the franchise worst. This was almost an NFL worst in sacks.
Yeah.
Right
So
here.
this is, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals that we're talking about. And they got almost $50 million in cap space to work with too, so they could go the free agency route to kind of go get some more established O-line guys if they need it.
They got some money.
And then you've got Riley Rife that was brought in on I believe it was coming on a 1-year deal, but he was hurt, so he didn't get to play. I think they should bring him back because he's a quality player. I really think he could help that offensive line mature. I think it's worth it to just kind of throw it out there.
To me, the most important player on that notable free agent list is definitely Jesse Bates.
Oh, their safety.
25-year-old safety. He plays at a high level.
Beast. They really need to keep
bring him back. He's going to get paid.
Yeah. I don't think C.J. Uzom is coming back, though, which you can find a good tight end in the draft. Nothing against C.J. by any means.
And then Eli Apple is also a free agent. He, I saw something
Fits
on
and
there.
starts.
But, I saw something out there. Pro Football Focus rated him the #1 corner in man-to-man coverage throughout the entire season last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would not have expected
I would not have expected that, especially the way Super Bowl win and everything. But at the same time,
yeah, but you're also going up against freaking Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very true. But you got to step up in those big moments, and
you do.
But unfortunately, that's just what it is. And I really do think Jesse Bates would be the big deal there on the free agency for them.
We'll see. It looks like Zion Johnson out of Boston College. He's an interior offensive lineman that would be a potential good fit for them. And the Bengals need about 2 starters on that O-line, and I think what will happen is you're going to see 2 or 3 new starters on the Cincinnati O-line to augment the left tackle and to augment Rife.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that would be a good direction for them to go. They're going to really have to establish chemistry quickly.
Well, but that's one of the most kind of easy plug-and-fill for young players is offensive line because...
Not at the college level, but kind of sort of at the NFL level.
That's what I mean, because these kids come out at the college level, they come out, they're men. They're men. They can hold their own in the NFL. We see it. We saw it 2 years ago with Tristan Wirfs.
We saw it last year with Creed Humphrey.
So, I mean, you're seeing these type of, stud offensive line that can come in and fill needs on these offensive line needy teams.
But then you also have your Eric Flowers that, you sometimes are going to have busts there
That's
too.
the thing that's what's crazy about this whole thing. There is no, one set rule to how everything's going to turn out.
Every prospect is different, and you have to take every single pick in a different light. Yeah. You're not going to hit on all of them. It's just a numbers game, but
it's luck more than anything. But at the same time, it's got a lot of stuff going.
The Patriots have done really, really well for a long time. I don't necessarily think that's just been luck. I think
not necessarily through the draft though. They haven't necessarily done that great through the draft. They've done great through picking and filling in players, free agency, and so forth and so on.
To a certain extent, but. Anyway, I digress. The next one we've got is the Cleveland Browns, otherwise known as the Brownies, otherwise known as the Mistake on the Lake. No, I'm kidding.
The Mistake on the Lake.
That's what they used to call the old Cleveland Stadium because it was so cold and it was so old, and still would have loved to watch a game there.
Oh, I'm sure you would have.
I love stadiums.
Yep.
So you've got Stefanski coming in for his 3rd season. You've got Andrew Berry as their GM entering his 3rd season, and I would love to see them break through next year. I really would.
I mean, I really thought that 2 years ago was good, or I really thought that last year could have been their breakthrough year, considering how well that playoff game against the Chiefs the year before.
But Baker could not stay healthy. No. They could not keep him healthy. Their offensive line had issues.
And a lot of that
their D-line had issues.
And a lot of that credit, too, is Baker refused to get treatment. He didn't want to miss time, so he went out there unhealthy. And, to a certain degree, you got to think of that mindset. Are you really helping your team when you're at 60% capacity?
And you almost wonder if Case Keenum going in there and just steadying the ship might have been better for the team.
We saw that, what was it, a Thursday night game early in the season or whatever, where Case Keenum and Dearness Johnson dominated.
Dude, Dearness Johnson is one of their free agents. I don't know how you don't bring that dude back.
Well, when you got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, is Kareem Hunt a free agent?
No, they just signed him to a deal recently.
So, when you got those guys, it's one of those things.
It's hard. There are some guys you kind of have to let go, I guess, in some respects. But Malik Jackson and Jadeveon Clowney are 2 of their bigger free agents that they're going to need to figure out something with. But then, Njoku, Rashad Higgins, I doubt they're really going to do much with them, to be honest with you. But it looks like Dearness Johnson is a restricted free agent, so they could potentially match.
Match and bring him
back. So we'll see.
Move on.
But I think Treylon Burks is going to be the pick there. And I couldn't agree with the guys with ESPN more. Burks is a huge wideout from Arkansas. Really came on last year. Okay. Heck of a player.
He's got some speed to him.
Mm-hmm. That dude could fit the Browns offense to a T. He really could.
Reminisce a little bit of the Josh Gordon experience.
Yes, actually, very much so. I would say yes. Yeah. The next one we have is the Steelers. They got Mike Tomlin there. Going to have a new GM because Kevin Colbert is retiring.
After 22 seasons. And then they got $33 million in cap
a lot of that, I wonder, is because of Ben's retirement.
Right.
So, they obviously need to find a quarterback. But they've got Juju that they still need to figure out what they're going to do. They got to figure out what's going to happen to Joe Hayden. So,
from what I've heard, they really like Mason Rudolph out there. They really do. They're not saying that he's going to be like a long-term answer, but as far as filling in
like a stopgap.
Not too bad. So
we'll see.
It'll be interesting to see with Mason Rudolph.
As long as Myles Garrett isn't swinging helmets at him, I think he'll be okay. But it looks like that Bernard Ryman out of Central Michigan, their offensive tackle, could be a fit for them because the Steelers' O-line needs some help.
Yeah.
Whoever's quarterbacking them, they need help regardless.
Because the offensive line has been rough over the last few years.
Well, I think a lot of that had to do with Pouncey retaring.
Well, like I said, just age, yeah.
Age and also just the continuity there and understanding the chemistry that needs to happen on an offensive line.
Plus the way the Steelers play football, they play that hard-nosed, trenching style.
Yeah, in a way. They love their quick passing game there, too. Mm-hmm. They kind of struggle.
But that's kind of like another extension of the running game is those quick, short passes.
But, man, I
down the field.
loved watching Najee Harris last year.
Oh, yeah.
I really think he's
You had him in fantasy on one league. I had him in fantasy in one league. He is like one of those rare third-down style backs.
3-down backs, yeah.
That's what did I say? Third down? Mm-hmm. One of those 3-down style backs.
Absolutely. Sure. The next one we have was the Houston Texans. I don't have a lot to say about the Texans other than nothing's going to really happen for them until they get the Deshaun Watson stuff solved. But I do like the choice of Lovie Smith as coach. I think that he'll provide a steadying hand. As long as he cuts his beard.
I just don't. I don't know with that pick. Smith. I could go into that one a little bit more so, but I'm just more or less on the fence with that pick. I feel like they could have gone a different route, but they only have $13.6 million in cap space, so not too much that they can work with. The Deshaun Watson deal is going to really
define their trajectory.
Yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff.
But Thibodeau would be a good pick out of Oregon, in my opinion, just because it would help bring some more explosiveness to their defense. And, I mean, a premium player that's going to rush the passer off the edge is huge in this game. Because if you can put pressure on the quarterback, then you got a chance.
So, speaking of quarterbacks, they got Tyrod Taylor, who's going on free agency.
Yeah,
so
we'll see.
You can't figure out the Deshaun Watson thing, and you let Taylor go.
Mills?
He
didn't do terribly. But we'll see. Next one we've got is the Fighting Carson Wentz's. Or maybe not.
Did they release them?
I don't think so.
I thought they were going to release them.
I don't know. I haven't seen anything recently.
Okay.
But, Frank Reich is, of course, the coach of the Indianapolis Colts. You got Chris Ballard as their GM. He's really prioritized offensive and defensive line to great effect in Indy. They got almost $40 million in cap space. They've drafted pretty well. They've got Jonathan Taylor there. They've got Michael Pittman. Pick. They don't. I mean, they gave up a decent amount to pick up Wentz, but they got a second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, and then 2 in the seventh round. So it's not as slim as you might think. But they got to figure out what they're going to do with their O-line, and they've got to figure out if Mr. Wentz is coming back. Yeah. And then on top of that, they got to probably find a replacement for Eric Fisher if they don't re-sign him.
Yeah. Fisher's a good offensive lineman.
So we'll see. I mean, there are multiple O-linemen that they could go after. Sean Ryan out of UCLA is one that these guys at ESPN have kind of targeted.
Okay.
I mean, we'll just have to see how things shake out on draft day. These are all projections. These are all just guesses, so you really don't know what to expect. But speaking of a team you don't really know what to expect out of,
Doug Peterson returns.
I loved that choice.
I think it's a good choice considering what Jacksonville has at the moment within their offense and within their team. He can maybe work a little bit with that.
They need good leadership. They need someone who has done it before. They need someone who has had success with younger quarterbacks and helping them evolve, like what Peterson did with Wentz for the first couple of years of his career. I think Trevor Lawrence still has the goods. I still think he can do it if he has the drive to do it and he has enough weapons around him to help him overcome some of these challenges.
I mean, they got what is that? 57
million? Almost 60 million
almost
in cap.
60 million in cap.
And then, but on top of that, you got to figure out what you're going to do with DJ Chark. You got to figure out what you're going to do with Cam Robinson.
Cam Robinson's a good.
So I'm not really sure what they're going to do. I mean, they still got to really work on their defense quite a bit. But a lot of people are saying that Evan Neal, the offensive tackle out of Alabama, is going to go number 1. For the Jags, so we'll see. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst idea to solidify the trenches first and then work your way out.
No, especially when you have that young quarterback.
You can find skill guys in the third through 6th rounds that could really be impact players for you.
This is where we talk about best player available versus filling needs and things like that. This really would be best player available because you got the first
and
pick
filling a need.
And filling the need.
Absolutely. The next one we've got is the overrated over this past year, King Henry dependent.
I fell victim to it, man. I really thought they were going to. I liked it. I liked the way they played the ball. I like Mike Vrabel over there in Tennessee, but just it is how it is. They're actually over the salary cap. I think this is one of the first teams.
$5 million
in the
over
AFC
the $5 million over the cap. The Titans went 12-5. They're $5 million over. I do like Mike Vrabel. I do, no question. Mike Vrabel. But
I did not like him when he played for the Patriots.
But my goodness, they have got some defensive holes to fill out because Harold Landry is a free agent, J.M. Brown, and Rashawn Evans. I mean, they've really got to make some decisions.
Landry's a good one, too, man. So is Rashawn Evans.
But then you've also got Ben Jones, your center. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's a tough way to kind of keep their front 4 on defense
and they're
intact.
over the cap, so they are really tied. Like you said, they can do some
It'll
things.
Be interesting. It'll be interesting. But then it's looking like Chris Olave out of Ohio State. He was a tandem partner with Garrett Wilson over there.
Bring some more power to that offense
It could work.
It could.
I mean, they need to get more weapons. Imagine if you had.
you had AJ Brown
but
and Julio
think
Jones.
about this though. Imagine if you had Chris Olave in the slot, who's ridiculously quick, runs precise routes, and is a burner. Imagine if you paired that with Julio and AJ on the outside.
And a healthy AJ, that could be dirty.
Here's the problem.
You still got Tannehill.
But not even that. Here's your problem. What are you really going to get out of Julio? You don't really know.
No.
I mean, I don't mean that bad. He's
No, that's the thing. It's just age. He's slowed down. He's missed a step. This and that, and he's injured.
He's in his early and mid-30s now. I mean,
so,
wide receivers.
But the threat alone, could that be enough to
maybe
make defensive coordinators scared? Or
if he can stay healthy.
If he can stay
healthy, we'll see.
That's just bottom line for everyone.
Hey, really. the biggest availability, the biggest attribute for these players is availability.
It's health. Yep.
Next one we've got is the Broncos. They got Coach Hackett coming over from Green Bay to take over that program. They got a little under $42 million in cap space. They got to figure out quarterback. Period.
Aaron Rodgers.
Are you whispering it?
I just could you imagine?
I'd love it.
He gets thrown into that AFC division.
I would love it. I would love to watch him go to Denver just like Peyton did. And I think he would tear it up. They've got a good roster in Denver.
They got a good division, too, though.
That's true. You got the freaking Chargers, the Raiders, and the Chiefs.
I mean, that would be the best division of football for sure.
That is a...
that's the thing. That's going to be a hard road to the Super Bowl if he wants to repeat or if he ever wants to get that second ring. It would be a hard road, but it would be fun.
The NFC West is pretty good, too.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun.
It would be, but yeah, everything's based on what they do with the quarterback, as it's a quarterback-driven league.
And speaking of quarterback, the best attribute for a quarterback, other than like a skill player receiver, is going to be your offensive line. They got Orlando Brown Jr. on the offensive line. That's a free agent this year. So
that's with the Chiefs.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong.
That's all good.
Team. Okay.
No worries. You're getting ahead of yourself as usual, but that's fine. But no, I really think that the Broncos could go defense here, and Devin Lloyd with Utah could be a really nice pick for them. But if a good offensive lineman is available, I could see them going after one. But we'll see. They've got to figure out
good skill position players on the offensive side. Got a good young defense coming up. I could definitely see a defensive player.
Well, that defense might be losing Kyle Fuller and Kareem Jackson, so we'll see. I mean, the Broncos have got some decisions to make. But I like the roster makeup there. They kind of remind me of what the Bucs were before Brady got there.
Kind of, yeah. They're just missing that quarterback.
It ties everything together.
It does.
So now you got the Chiefs, of course, with Andy Reid finishing his 10th season in KC. He's been in KC for 10 years. I remember him when he was at the Eagles for he was probably there for 10 years, too.
He was probably there for about 10 years, yeah.
So
I mean, he did so great in Philly. Remember when the playoffs had to run through Philly for so long there? And, I mean, the playoffs have had to run through KC over the last 3-4 years.
I think he's going to be one of the most underrated coaches of all time, even with just this one Super Bowl. But I think he's going to get one or two more with Patty.
It's one of those things that, like you said, underrated, or is he kind of just where he is? He's a very good coach. But it's hard to push through for him to get through that.
And he doesn't run the ball enough.
He does not run the ball enough. He gets too cute. He likes those big, splashy plays.
I like his creativity, though.
Oh, I do, too. Oh, definitely.
I mean, you can see why he's won a lot of games, especially with, Cheetah and Kelsey and Mahomes throwing sidearm passes.
You got those players.
When you got those players.
The greenest light in the game, as Skip Bayless likes to say about Mahomes, because he really does. He can just chunk it all over the yard.
He can. Texas boy.
Yep.
But
they got $12.8 million
in cap space. But then you've got to figure out what you're going to do with Orlando Brown, as you mentioned. Yep. You got to figure out what you're doing with Honey Badger, with Tyrann Mathieu. And you've got to figure out what you're going to do with Charvarius Ward.
Charvarius Ward's a great corner.
He was. He really came on strong. Yeah. And then, of course, you got Jaron Reed and Melvin Ingram, Byron Pringle.
They got some things.
Darrell Williams.
Jerick McKinnon was really big for them in the playoffs area.
I don't understand why Williams didn't get more carries. I like Darrell Williams, but then again, Damian Williams, he might come. Well, no, he's with Chicago now.
He's with Chicago now.
So then, I really think that the Chiefs need to improve their pass rush. So we'll just have to see. I mean, their defense still needs some help, especially considering how many free agents they've got. Yeah. But apparently, they're thinking that safety from Baylor, Jalen Petrie, could go to them, and
if could kind of fill in
the Honey Badger role if they let him go. But I don't know if they let him go. It depends on what he asks for.
It depends, yeah. It depends if he'll take that hometown discount, as we always like to say.
Yeah, right. And then the last two that we have on this list are AFC West guys. So we've got the Las Vegas Raiders with their new coach, Josh McDaniels, getting another crack in the AFC West.
I kind of like that pick. He's got good tangibles in there with the offense.
He had to have learned from his Denver experience.
Had to have learned from that. I mean, that was a disaster. Plus, he's in there with a established quarterback in Derek Carr, who's a very smart quarterback.
I think they retain him.
I think they do really well. And that's the thing, is Derek Carr is a free agent, isn't he?
Derek Carr is not a free agent. They just need to figure out He's going into the final year of his deal.
Okay, that's what it is. Yeah.
So I think they're going to extend him. So we'll see how that works out. I think he could do well in the McDaniels system.
Yeah, they have about $21 million in cap space, so they got a little bit of room to kind of do some things with. They don't really have. They just have your typical one pick in each round for the most part. Looks like they have 2 in the 5th, no 6th round, so
That's not bad.
they can do some stuff in there. But I mean, looking at it right there, you got Casey Hayward Jr., who's he's a little bit older as far as a corner is concerned, but he definitely is a big-time attribute to that defense.
Well, I mean, more than anything, I don't really see a ton of guys on here that are just like, you have to keep them.
Right.
I mean, Solomon Thomas and Richie Incognito, solid players.
Older
Deshaun Jackson can still
Zay
run.
Jones came out
He
pretty
came
big
on strong at the end of the
for
year,
them.
but it was inconsistent.
Yep.
So the Raiders are going to have to kind of figure out what fits within their offensive system and then make their moves accordingly.
And what Josh McDaniels might even change that offensive system.
You just never know. And then it's looking like Devontae Wyatt from Georgia would be a good fit for them. Just a really solid interior defensive lineman. So we'll see how things shake out there. The last one, of course, is the Chargers. You've got Brandon Staley there. You've got Justin Herbert there. You've got Austin Eckler there. You've got Derwin James. You've got Keenan Allen. You've got Mike Williams. And Mike Williams is a free agent. And Chris Harris, their corner that obviously was great in Denver for a long time as a free agent. They really need to sign a couple of their free agents and fix their defense because their run defense was atrocious last year. It was so bad.
Man. I think that's the biggest fill is the draft. They need to go through and they need to really build out that defense. However, they have just a little bit over $50 million. They have $54.6 million in cap
to play
space.
with. Yeah.
So I really think they need to shore up the offensive line. It doesn't really look like there's too
retain
much
some of their
going on.
weapons.
Yeah, retain some of their weapons.
They need some big boys in the middle.
They
need some
do,
defensive
especially
tackle.
on defense. Yep, especially
So
on defense.
Travis Jones out of UConn, it looks like he's an interior D line that they think may be a good fit for them. And who knows? I just think that if the Chargers can just keep building, I
like
love
the way the Chargers look.
I
Yeah.
love watching Justin Herbert work.
He's
Dude
good.
is a gamer.
He's good.
He's
man.
the second best quarterback in that division. There's no question he's right behind Mahomes.
Right behind
and he's
it.
better than Carr. And he's better than whoever the Broncos are probably going to trot out unless A-Rod comes there. Could you imagine those battles in the AFC West, though, if you got Mahomes, Herbert, Rodgers,
and Carr?
And Carr?
Carr's underrated, man.
He is.
He's very
He
underrated.
is.
He's
He
like
is.
he's always like in that just fencing of that 10th, 11th, 9 to 11 like best quarterback in the league. He's always right, just cracking that top 10.
12. Top 12
Yeah,
easy. He's Dak Prescott level.
Yeah,
I mean,
Dak Prescott. Yeah, I mean,
I think that's a fair thing to say.
That's a good comparison. I agree with that. But thanks for joining us in with this discussion, talking about the combine, talking about potential what's going to happen with the AFC East or the AFC division. Some good teams, some good quarterbacks. Lots of teams in there that did not have very bad cap space. There was only a few that were over the cap space.
It'll be interesting to watch how things develop. I think the Titans take a step back next year.
Yeah.
I think that the Bengals.
Oh man, I hope not.
I
I like Derrick Henry. Like I said, I like Mike Vrabel. I would like to see
bold
success
prediction:
in there.
Henry's out of the league in 3 years.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Running back.
he's a running back. That's unfortunate, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I hope that's not the case for his sake.
I hope it's not due to injury for sure, but I mean, it is running back, and when he is that style running back, he gets 99% of the carries.
Can you imagine if they actually split the carries just a smidgen more and gave Deontay Foreman more?
Deontay Foreman did great when he needed to
did.
step up. He came in
did.
there.
But that's what I'm
That's a
getting at.
Texas boy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Whether he went to Texas or not, I'm super glad for him to get that success. But the reality is, he's good enough to play in the league. And he proved that. And if he can just be that, if they do a 65-35 split with him and Henry, I think that would make that offense a heck of a lot more balanced.
That would work out. I mean, it definitely would. And then, like you said, if they bring in some type of speedy receiver, run that slot, even like I
It
said,
could open up that
just
offense.
the threat of Julio on the outside because he's not the same Julio he was in Atlanta, but it's still Julio Jones, and A.J. Brown's a baller. I mean, that's
Absolutely, especially when he's healthy.
Yeah.
But like Big J said, thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you for listening. And we have the NFC preview coming up next. The first
Go ahead and
beer
give us a good
that
beer
we
review
tried
here, 'cause,
today.
Boy, that was good.
So if you've ever been to a Hawaiian shaved ice or gotten snow cones and stuff when you were a kid or even with your own kids, everything else in
takes
between.
you back, man.
All right. So this is called Drive Through. It's called Tiger Blood. I know it's kind of hard to see with the glare on the screen. I'll see if I can center it. Tiger Blood is actually a flavor of snow cone that we grew up with. So it's watermelon, strawberry with a little dash of coconut. And Parrish Brewing Company out of Broussard, Louisiana, just south of Lafayette. You can't buy this in Dallas. You can buy this in Houston, and you can buy it in Louisiana, Alabama, Florida. So they distribute to a couple of states and a couple of different regions. Parrish is one of the best breweries in the country, and I'm just going to say that as an unabashed fan of them. Big J has had multiple beers from them. No, he's never had a bad beer.
We're not getting paid. This isn't a sponsorship. No, just straight up
we just really like their beer. We just really like their beer. So Parrish, this was, for a quote-unquote Berliner-style, German-style sour ale, you don't taste much sour at all. It is ridiculously smooth. You get all three of the flavors from the watermelon, the strawberry, and the coconut. He does not like sours.
And that was really good. Not sour at all. Does not leave you with that bitter beer taste.
And it's 8%.
That's what sours do.
And it's 8%.
I like it. I like it.
So if you see that or have friends in Louisiana that can get you some of that, get you some.
All right, guys. But we'll go ahead and we're going to lead into our next episode where we're going to talk NFC. Combine draft analysis and things like that.
Oh, we get to talk about the team that has a quarterback, the Cowboys, and the team that doesn't have a quarterback, the Bucs. We'll see.
But we'll talk to you guys. Check it out. Our next episode coming up. Hopefully, you guys check it out. Leave a comment on YouTube. We're doing our video podcast too as well. So otherwise, also hope you enjoy, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Appreciate y'all.